our second keynote. It's my huge honor to introduce one of my personal heroes and someone Field Team 6 is honored to have helped elect and re-elect. When my friends in general question whether a politician even can be a moral leader, that you've heard all the stereotypical jokes for decades, I point to her. And then they say, okay, well, yeah, sure, Katie Porter, okay. She's someone who is not only a bona fide progressive champion, but also so good at going beyond labels and just connecting with people on the issues that she was able to win in conservative bastion Orange County 3 times. She wields her whiteboard to speak truth to power, to defend the middle class, and to unilaterally bring the entire country free COVID vaccinations. And now she's running to be California's next US Senator. So please welcome Representative Katie Porter.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm a little scratchy here on my voice. I want to apologize. I had 21 events in the last 2 days up in San Francisco and Sacramento, and my voice hasn't quite come back. But it's so great to be here with Field Team 6. For those of you who don't know me, I look forward to meeting you. But I have to say, I feel like Field Team 6 is family. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what our family has accomplished and what we're going to accomplish going forward. Now, many of you know that people often come up to me and they say, oh, I know you. You're that whiteboard lady. And it's true. I have used a whiteboard and other tools to try to make congressional hearings engaging and to let voters see that the folks that they elect are actually fighting for them in Washington. And for me, that means holding powerful people to account. Yes, Republicans who are fighting to hurt our country, to demean our values, to limit our opportunities, but also corrupt CEOs that are preventing workers from unionizing or cheating their customers. Yes, to holding accountable folks like government officials who are simply not doing the job that they are supposed to be doing for the American people. Now, internet superfans call this the whiteboard of justice, but I am here to tell you that it is just a whiteboard from Target. Like, you too can have one for $2.99. You have to bring the justice yourself. And that is really what Field Team 6 and registering people and electing them is about. It's about bringing the justice, not the whiteboard, but the justice and the people-powered movement behind it to Washington. And when we do that, guess what happens? Look what I just found, this whiteboard sitting right here next to me while I was listening to Britta. We win when we bring the justice to Washington. And we do that by registering folks. And what do we show them when we're having these oversight hearings? We show them that we see and we respond to the concerns that are on their mind. For example, using the whiteboard to ask Chase Bank CEO Jamie Dimon how impossible it is, to show him it is impossible for a big teller earning what he pays in Irvine, California, to actually be able to live here, even at a minimum level, and asking him, what should she do? What should she do? You put her in this position, what should she do? Showing that these nonsense we hear about research and development and people won't have cures from big pharma is actually all just BS to mask the fact that big pharma's price increases are driven by stock buybacks and dividends to shareholders and executive compensation. Now, DC lobbyists have started calling this the whiteboard treatment. And I've started to kind of enjoy myself a little bit here, sometimes bringing a whiteboard into the hearing, even if I'm not going to use it, just to see people get twitchy. And it makes me happy to think about these folks coming into hearings, the most powerful people in America, being coached by incredibly expensive lobbyists. And they're being told, now, we're going to talk about Katie Porter. If she pulls out the whiteboard, try not to visibly panic. It will only make it worse. And I've actually seen this panic, including my personal favorite from Mark Zuckerberg. So I love that I have this reputation from oversight. I love that I'm able to do this work. I love oversight for the people of California. I even have a vanity license plate on my minivan, and it spells out OVRSITE. And let me tell you, I didn't fully, as Jason says, I'm a pretty normal person. I didn't fully think this through, because when your license plate spells out oversight, you have to drive really carefully. Like, you must come to a complete stop at every stop sign. Every lane change must be signaled, because you're announcing yourself as someone who thinks that rules and following through on rules is important. So for me, oversight means being a watchdog for our budgets, for our tax dollars, for our retirement savings, for our values. Fundamentally, it's about closing this gap between what politicians announce at press conferences and then what actually happens in people's lives. And when that gap is big, it causes people to be skeptical about democracy. It causes them to feel like their vote doesn't matter, like Washington, D.C. never changes. And I know you all hear that when you're out registering voters, because that's what I hear sometimes when I'm out registering voters. So oversight is about closing that gap between what the law says and what it actually does. And I started with this oversight work long before I was elected to Congress. Our now Vice President, then California Attorney General Kamala Harris, hired me to work on behalf of Californians, making sure the big banks didn't just make big promises to stop cheating families, that they actually stopped doing it. And I ran a statewide program to help make sure families didn't lose their homes in violation of the law. So government, state, local, county, federal, all of government needs to have an oversight approach to making sure that policies are actually working as intended. Now, this oversight work is not supposed to be adversarial. It's not supposed to be partisan. And if it seemed that way during the Trump era, it's because people like Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, HUD Secretary Ben Carson, the director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Kathy Kraninger, all treated hearings and, frankly, their entire responsibility to the American people as jokes and laughed in my face. I'm going to give you all a free pro tip for when you come to Congress and your voice gets heard in Washington, D.C. Don't laugh in my face, because it only makes the whiteboard marker get a little bit sharper. So for me, what's really, really exciting about the Biden administration is that contrast. It's the ability to work in partnership with administration to be able to make sure government is being a force of good. So we've seen a lot of great bills come out of the Biden administration: the American Rescue Plan, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the CHIPS and Science Act, Honoring Our Pact Act, Inflation Reduction Act. But the work doesn't stop there. It's about making sure that these laws are being applied and put into place on the ground in a way that actually helps people. And that means that being an ally to President Biden and his administration is pushing them to make sure these laws are moving from the press conference to people's lives, right? And so one of the ways we've been able to do that is bring people from the cabinet here to Orange County, like Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, who we toured a recycled water plant and saw how that grant is going to help quadruple the water storage capacity. With Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm, visiting a California family that is taking advantage of the kinds of opportunities that are going to be available under the Inflation Reduction Act to put in more energy efficient appliances. So there's a lot of work to be done, not just on the accomplishments of the bills we've passed, but now on making sure that they're going to be effective in people's lives. And we owe a huge debt of gratitude to Field Team 6, because your hard work registering voters is what allowed these bills to be passed and what sends folks like me to Washington so that we can hold government accountable to the people who elected them. And we all know that this work of registering voters isn't a one-time thing. Democracy doesn't come and go. It's something we have to fight for every single day, every single month, every single year. There's no downtime in democracy. And so we have a lot more to do in 2024. Now, we know on this call what's going to happen if Republicans win in 2024. And part of our job is to help other people understand and see that, to draw them into engaging in our democracy. We know, we've already seen that with the Republicans taking control of the House, that they are stonewalling the Democratic agenda, making it impossible for us to keep doing the work we need to do on affordable childcare, on universal pre-K, on free community college, on expanding Medicare to cover vision and dental. There is a lot that is still undone. But we know if they get control of the Senate and the White House, they are going to pursue a nationwide abortion ban. They're going to privatize Social Security and Medicare, and they are going to continue to give handout after handout to special interests. Now, some of you know, Jason mentioned I am running to be the next senator from California, and I wanted to take just a minute to say why. There was a time in my lifetime, and I'm actually the younger candidate in this race. I'm staring down 50. I need more Botox, so I'm not that young. But the Senate has and it has been the kind of last line of defense in the fight for the soul of our nation. But what we've seen is Mitch McConnell steal the Supreme Court. Senate Republicans and Trump pass massive tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans and multinational corporations. They dismantled the Clean Air Act. They dismantled the Civil Rights Act. They are destroying the Voting Rights Act. So now more than ever, California needs its best warrior in the Senate, and the country needs California to have that kind of fighter. We need every powerful voice we can get, and we need folks who know how to go and campaign all across purple and red areas and win every single vote we can. And that's a skill that I have from Orange County. That's a skill I want to take to every part and pocket of California and every part and pocket of this country. And so we need to be in position to defend our rights and fight for an economy that works for working Americans. But to do that, we have to win everywhere. We can't just win where it's easy. And I know how to win where it's tough. And by the way, Jason, you mentioned Orange County at the start of this election. Let me say, it's because of you all that there are now more registered Democrats than there are Republicans in Orange County, California. That didn't happen as a coincidence. That's not just a result of people getting up one day and deciding to take action. It's because you stood in front of grocery stores, you had conversations, you approached people, and you got them to take that action on that step. So that is your work that happened on the ground that is transforming, empowering a movement. So I am going to be an evangelist for Field Team 6. I am going to make sure that we all understand that registering voters, not throwing up our hands and complaining and blaming Republicans, but registering voters and doing the work and figuring how to talk to people across party lines and drawing them into the process because they share our values, even if they don't share, in many cases, their partisan registration. We can draw them in, we can register them, we can get them to switch their registration, and we can engage them. I have done all this political work with your help, and I've also done it without taking corporate PAC money. I have never taken corporate money. I am proud. I am never going back on that. I don't care how tough or how expensive the race is. It is a core value. Democrats need to live it and lead by example about what our democracy should look like. Everybody knows I cannot be bought. That is everyone from my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to my constituents to the lobbyists who come into Washington to try to pressure me to do their bidding rather than what you need. So I'm really proud of that, and I've been grateful for everyone to have their help in that. For me, this Senate race is about fighting for California, for our country. And here are some of the things I want to accomplish for you. I want to make sure that we don't have to worry about getting ripped off by big banks or big pharma. That every kid, especially those in Black, Latino, tribal communities who live in disadvantaged neighborhoods, can get a good education and a good job. So that the United States can lead the green energy economy and be resilient to climate change. So that we don't have to worry about our kids getting shot when they go to a movie or go to school. So that Congress honors its promises to workers and to seniors to not just protect, but to expand Medicare and Social Security so that people can have secure retirements. So that we all have the freedom to decide who to love and when and if to become a parent. So that our kids can afford to buy houses right here in California and build an economy and a life right here in our communities. The goal here is to create a future for all that is freer and an economy that is more fair. And we can do it. So I'm so grateful to Field Team 6 for everything you guys do. I have seen it on the ground, what you have done in Orange County, and it is so important that we continue to do this work. One of the things that makes Field Team special, that makes it very, very dear to my heart, is Field Team 6 doesn't take days off. It doesn't take months off. It understands that the work of democracy is something you do whenever you are able, whenever you can make a difference, whenever you have a little time, whenever we can engage people. There is way too much tuning in the week or two before the election and tuning back out the day after from our elected officials. And California needs a senator who is engaged in the work of democracy every single day, every single week, and at every single opportunity. And I'm committed to do that. Our battle for the soul of the nation, our battle for our rights and our freedoms is far from over. It is a battle that we are going to win when we take action together. And I just couldn't be prouder to be in partnership with Field Team 6. It is so great and so empowering for me to see all of you this morning. It is a great way to kick off another day of campaigning. Thank you so much for having me.